Okay, welcome to the challenge review. Let's go ahead and get our enemy AI working. Let's open up our script. First thing first, we need a variable for how fast our enemies can move. So here we're going to go ahead and say public float, and I'm going to keep that private. Private float speed. And we'll go ahead and set it to about 5.0f. And now we just want to move down. So to move down, we use our transform.translate that you should already be familiar with. And we're going to move in the downwards direction. So vector3.down. We're going to multiply that by our speed. And then we're going to incorporate real time into that to slow us down. Okay, so now we're moving down at a rate of about 5 meters per second. Now let's go ahead and solve this problem here. So when we're off the screen on the bottom, I need to respawn back on top. So the question comes down to, where is my top and bottom? So right here is where I'm going to spawn you. I'm going to spawn you at about 7 on the Y. And I'm going to only do that once you're at about -7. All right, so when you go past -7, you're going to respawn up at +7, and you're going to have a different X position. Okay? So let's go ahead and get this working. And we want to make sure we're in bounds. So let's see here. It needs to be within, so about, I'll say within 7. So between 7 and 7 on the map. Yeah. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and do that. And anytime we say when we want to do something, it's most likely going to be an if statement. So let's go ahead and fill in our pseudocode. So here, we're going to go ahead and check our position and our Y. And if it's less than, I believe we had it at 7, so if it's less than -7, then I need to take my current position. So transform.position equals a new position. Now that new position is going to be 7 on the Y. Okay, we know that for that much. It's going to be 7 on the Y. However, I want to randomize this X value. So how can we do that? Well, you could Google search how to create a random number in Unity, and you'll be brought to something that looks like this. When you Google search how to create random numbers, you get to what's known as random.range. Returns a random float or an int between a min and max. Okay, and the max is inclusive, so using random.range 0, 1 could return 1.0 as a value. So max is inclusive. Okay, so that means it will return anywhere between 0 and 1. Okay, now let's look at how to use it. So here you type random.range, you open a parenthesis, and then you put 2 values in, and it gives you back a random value. So here, I'm going to go ahead and say random.range for my X value, and I'm going to pass in 2 floats here. It says a min and a max. So I want to go ahead and do between -7 and +7. Okay. And if we go ahead and save this, we should be good to go. And you'll see here we have an error, and it's because I have an extra comma here. Okay, so if our position is less than 7, meaning we're off the bottom of the screen, we're going to spawn back at top at 7 on the Y. And then, I'm sorry, I did not have an extra one. It was just the syntax was incorrect. We're going to spawn at 7 on the Y, and we're going to get a random X value. Now, to clean this up even further, and let's just make sure it works first, but to clean it up even further, oh, whoops, I adjusted our scale to 5x. Give me a second. Okay, so here's our enemy here. Okay, let's go ahead and drag him over here. Let's go ahead and run the game. So he's moving down, and as you can see here, our enemy is now getting randomly positioned along the x-axis. Now there is, okay, there we go, good. I was looking for some variety there. So now our enemy is constantly coming down at us at a variety of different positions. Now one more thing that I want to do here is, one, I can optimize this just a bit. For instance, it looks a little messy having the random range in here. So what I can actually do is I can go ahead and say here, float random x equals the operation of picking a random number. So I want to get a random number between -7 and 7. Okay, and we'll go ahead and say 7f, 7f. And then what I can do here is I can just put in that variable, because it's going to equal whatever that random number is. And there you go, transform.position, new vector3, random x. Alright, and it just makes it a bit cleaner. Alrighty, and just like before, we can go ahead and run this. Everything should be fine. And that completes our simple artificial intelligence behavior. Now imagine when we get into our spawn manager and we're creating enemies every X amount of seconds, how this will increase the difficulty because any enemy we don't destroy gets repurposed and reused, adding more enemies.